Do your baked goods sometimes work out and sometimes not? You're probably measuring wrong. So let's show you how to fix that today. So to measure properly, there's a couple of things you ought to know first. So usually what everybody starts with is we always have a dry cup measure. This is what everyone has in their house. It's easy to get and it's just what we've always used. We also use a scale here, and this is what we use the most of the time in the classroom. This will give you a more accurate scaling of the amount of ingredients that you need. And then we also will measure with a liquid measuring cup, and this will always be true for water, milk, and eggs. That will be the same measurement that you would use as you would a scale, okay? So whenever we measure with a measuring cup for flour, you can always use a knife to scrape off, or a lot of measuring spoons will come with a leavener that we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how we're going to measure for the pie crust that we're making today. So I can show you a couple of ways how we're going to do that. Okay, so whenever I use a dry cup measuring at home, I like to fluff up the flour, get as much as I can in the cup, and then do a scrape straight across the top so that you can get an even amount in there, and then we can measure it that way. So if you're going to use a scale at home, and you can get them anywhere, Amazon, Walmart, Target, they are very easy to find and very affordable. So when we go to use a scale, it has where it can measure in ounces, and ours measures in the 10th degree here, and it'll always come with zeros across the scale here. And we always want to tear it out whenever we place a bowl on the scale. Just hit the tear button and it'll go back to all zeros again. So it's like the bowl doesn't even exist there. It's not there, all right? So and we have it set to measuring in ounces for our flour. So we're going to measure 11 ounces of flour here. And it's always a good idea to have a spoon nearby. So if we go a little bit over, we can just get a little bit out at a time. Okay, so we have 11 ounces. As long as it's 11.0, then we are good to go. So I'm going to take this off. And now we're going to go with our Crisco shortening here that we're going to use for our pie crust. And we'll use a little bowl for this. So we're going to scale it out again to a 0. And we're going to measure 6 ounces of shortening for this. This is going to make our pie crust really flaky and really delicious. Ooh. Try not to tip your bowl over. Okay, so we need 6 ounces. I've got 7 ounces here. So this is when your little spoon comes in handy. We're just going to get a little bit of it off. Okay, so we are at 6 ounces. Perfect. Now we're going to set that to the side. So we have our flour, shortening, and we have our ice cold water here, okay? This is just regular cold tap water that I've put ice cubes in so that we can have a nice ice cold water there. This is going to help make our pie crust a lot flakier. The only kind of salt that you want to be able to use is either iodized salt or sea salt. We have sea salt here. You just want a fine grain of a salt. So I have a 1/2 teaspoon. And you want to make sure that you can level it off right there so that we don't get too much salt. So we'll sprinkle that into our flour here. All right, so for our ice cold water that we're going to use, we're just going to measure about a cup, and we're going to use our liquid measuring cup. Now it'll vary of how much we use on our pie crust, but we're just measuring for now. So you want to hold your ice back because we don't want to use our ice cubes in our pie crust. So we're just going to measure just until we can get to a cup. Okay, sometimes you'll have to get down at eye level and make sure that we have a cup. We can always pour a little bit back in if we've gone a little over. Okay, perfect. So we have our ice cold water here. We have everything measured, ready to go for our pie crust, and that's how you measure.